That is a true story. At Fronted, Oregon, I was there for 15 years. I tried some of the biggest murder cases the city has ever had. And then at night, I would work at UPS, as we call it, humping trucks.
Welcome to the Lion's Den, hosted by Lance Bachman.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of the Lion's Den. I'm excited. I have Carlos Vega, who's running next month, May 18th, as a Democrat against Larry Krasner for the Philadelphia District Attorney's job. And you do not want to miss this interview. I've gotten to know Carlos. He has a very different look against Larry, and he has a very different feeling of what Philadelphia should look like and what reform should look like that I think you're going to be interested to hear. Carlos, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, so let's just jump right into it. You're running as a Democrat against Larry Krasner. Let's talk about that. We're going to jump right into it. Tell me why, first and foremost, and then we're going to have a bunch of different points about this. And just so you know, the viewers, I told Carlos this point blank. Everyone knows how I feel about prison reform, the criminal system. I'm going to be fair, but I'm going to be very honest and very tough with some points about prison reform and see how you answer. Is that fair?
Fine.
All right.
Hit it.
Tell me how you feel. Go ahead, Carlos.
Well, the reason I'm running is I've lived in Philadelphia since 1982. I came here as a prosecutor, came under Rendell, and my dream was always to become a homicide prosecutor. I came to the city, stayed here, raised a family here. I'm a father of three, and I raised my two younger ones. My daughter's 24, my youngest is 17 now, and I got custody of my daughter when she was 5, custody of my boy when he was 8. And I went to Catholic school in New York because at that time, Catholic schools were safe as opposed to the public schools in New York City in the 70s. And I wanted them to have the same education. And you know, as a DA, you don't make a lot of money. So I was at a crossroads of saying, do I leave and go private practice or work at a firm? But my dream was always to be a prosecutor, be the voice for those people, victims of crime, that I look like them, I talk like them, I live like them. That I felt like in homicide, I would be turning my back on those mothers because I thought I was that good as a lawyer. The major reason I'm running is this. I see the city's in crisis. There's an epidemic of gun violence. I see businesses are dying. People are leaving the city. And more importantly, my children are the ethnic group and the age of the next victim. I mean, 12% of all, Latinos are 12% of all murder victims. African Americans are 87%. My boy wears the hoodie, the sweats, the hair is crazy. My daughter, she's 24, going out. I can get that knock on the door and say something happened to them. And I can, with the service I've done, the experience I have, the ideas I have, and the connections I've made, to just sit back on the sidelines and let it happen to my city. Somebody has to step forward. You know, some people think I'm crazy doing this. I'm battling what they say a giant. But guess what? I've faced obstacles before. You know, I shouldn't be talking to you. I mean, I shouldn't graduate from high school, shouldn't go to college or law school. But I've had challenges, I've had setbacks, but as my mother taught me, get up and do it again.
So let's talk about that. I know one thing, and I told you this, Larry believes in his mission, whether you like it or not. Some people think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread in Philadelphia. Some people hate him. There's no in the middle with Larry, right? You're very passionate also. Like I said, he believes in his mission. You believe in your mission. There's no doubt about that. You believe in your mission so much. I was doing research on you, and this is really why I was like, well, I got to meet you, is that you worked at UPS for 15 years while you were an ADA in Philadelphia because it didn't pay that much, but you believed in the calls you were doing, that you actually worked at night at UPS. Is that a true story or is that bullshit?
That is a true story. At Fronted, Oregon, I was there for 15 years. I tried some of the biggest murder cases the city has ever had. And then at night, I would work at UPS, as we call it, humping trucks, loading, unloading. I worked every area, next day airs and everything, for 15 years at night, 5 days a week. And the reason I left is my knee started locking, and I didn't want to get run over by a truck because in my years there, 3 guys died in that building. 2 with accidents and 1 of a heart attack. And I'm raising the kids. I can't afford to die. So I was, I paid for their school, and it was time to go. while I'm still young and healthy and not injured, although I've gotten stitches in my head from being in UPS. I've had a concussion. It's a rough job, but what was nice about it, if you could say anything nice, is this. I met a lot of young people, black, white, Asian, Latino, that were really working hard, going to school, that you're really proud of and say, you know what, because sometimes you think, oh, the young people, they got it easy or they're lazy, but I'm seeing guys really working hard like I did, and I'm proud of them, and I mentored a lot of them, because I remember one time walking in the street, two of the kids are in suits, and they were in college at the time, and they go, Carlos, we're like you, we're wearing a suit. I go, yeah, isn't it nice having air conditioning? Because the one thing I always say about UPS, if a kid's thinking of leaving college, there is no air conditioning at UPS, because the trucks are in and out. So when it's 90 degrees outside, it's probably 95 in that building, because those trucks are baking in the sun all day. So, when you say I wouldn't wish that job on my worst enemy, yes, I would. But I wouldn't wish it on my children. I mean, it was a really hard job. It takes a lot of stamina and commitment to have that kind of job. But the one thing that was great about UPS is this. They had which I want to use if I become DA, is this. They had a learn and earn program where you were working at UPS and you would bring in your roster and UPS would pay a portion of your tuition, which was really great.
We're going to get into the learn and earn program in a little bit here, but, but you could have went out and had your own practice. That was my point, is you went and worked at UPS because you believed the help you were doing, taking criminals. You believe in second chances, which I love. Mm-hmm. I believe in second chances more than anyone. I believe, there should be no private prisons. I mean, I've talked to you. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But you believe that you were taking bad people off the street, that you decided to keep going with that instead of opening your own private practice. I mean, ADAs don't make that much.
No, we don't. And it was a hard decision because you have your family. And part of working at night, there are times I feel guilty because this was my schedule. I'd be up at 6:30, shower and shave, get my daughter and kid ready for school, do their lunches, breakfast, drive them to school, do my murder cases, pick them up, cook, do their homework, drop them off at the babysitter, and when I get out at UPS at 11 or midnight, pick them up from the babysitter and bring them home. That was, people wonder, you suffer from a lack of sleep. But I'll tell you what happened in terms of lack of sleep when I was in college. When I was in college, my mother got a divorce, and she had a grocery store, but she couldn't run the store without my dad. So she opened a newsstand in the South Bronx, in the subway. And my schedule for 4 years was getting up at 4 in the morning to go with my mom to that newsstand and open it up. And what people don't understand is I couldn't wait in the subway station staying warm. I had to go outside because when the Daily News and the New York Times drop off their papers, there's a pickup truck behind them stealing them. So I had to be waiting there to get those papers. And I'd stay with her in the newsstand till about 8:30, go to class. And then after class, I worked in a woman's shoe store. They had 8 stores, and I could sell shoes like crazy. So I would call the main office saying, what store you need me? So sometimes I was working in Brooklyn, sometimes at the Bronx store, sometimes in Manhattan. And I worked in that shoe store 7 days a week till 9 o'clock at night. So in terms of suffering from a lack of sleep, I did it in college. In fact, I got into several law schools, so I did good. I think I used to be smart back then, but I couldn't do it now. But I have a strong work ethic because it's from my mom. My mom would be in that store at 6 in the morning and close that store at midnight. And I would work that store with her because my dad would work in a restaurant at night. So me being the oldest boy, I was there trying to take care of her, and we were robbed at gunpoint, knife point. I saw a lot of violence, worried about my mom. My friends got addicted to drugs because heroin was big. And guys that I played baseball with, I went to school with, really smart, smarter than me, got eaten up by the streets. Guys I played with died of overdoses, went to jail, went to Rikers Island. So I saw both sides, and I really wanted to become a DA saying I could be that voice for my mom, but I could have that compassion that I know not everybody's bad. They've made bad choices because the streets eat them up.
Let's talk about that. So right now, let's just call it what it is. the climate right now is so high with racial tensions in Philadelphia and America, right? I mean, the media is just pumping it. Everyone's a racist. If you're white, you're racist. If you're black, you're racist. If you're Latino, you're racist. Doesn't matter. The cars are racist at this point. You watch the media, right? Mm-hmm. I said to you, I believe this with all my heart. People aren't racist the way they're making out to be. There's just good people, there's bad people, there's poor people, there's rich people, and the system shits on poor people, whether you're white, black, Puerto Rican, as long as you're poor. If you're poor, the system gets you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, do you think the media, I'm being honest with you, you grew up in a rough neighborhood. I had no problem telling you I was in fist fights when I was younger. I got in trouble when I was younger. I seen the good and bad in everyone, but even I said this to you, the bad people I met when I was younger and I got in trouble were still good people. They had good hearts. They weren't bad people. They were scared. They were like me, insecure at the time. They had 100 different thoughts going through their head. Like, you see so much. How do you change that? Because right now, every politician I see, you said something. You said, I'm running as a Democrat. You almost paused when you met me. Mm-hmm. I thought you were ashamed. I felt like you were in the middle like me. Not a Democrat, not a Republican. You just want to do the right thing. Is there some truth to that? Because we need a party of that.
Well, what I see now is people are fighting so much. You got the extreme right, the extreme left, when we need common sense. I mean, we need to respect each other. We need to talk. It sounds silly, but the law can't say don't be racist or unfair. There's no such law. It's me knowing you. I live in an Italian area. I'm fine. I'm Puerto Rican. No one's done anything to me because they go, he's a good neighbor. Oh, he happens to be Latino. So what? So it's a question of bringing. What I see is the media loves a soundbite and saying, oh, you're a white racist or you're this, you're that. And then just put fuel on that fire when we got to talk to community groups. And I remember a bunch of years ago, there was a big issue with violence against Asians. And the way we, in the DA's office, try to solve that problem is we brought the black churches and the Korean community to talk. And when they were talking, they had common ground. And the Asians were saying that, look, we're building businesses in your community. Not everybody can drive to the ShopRite, which is 20 blocks away. You don't have a car. We're opening grocery stores like my mother did, which is you can get toilet paper, milk, eggs just down the block. That old lady could send the kids, say, here's $5, get me this. And so we're providing a service and you're not welcoming us. And it was a question that then they started talking, saying, which I got out of it and I was talking. I said, listen, we all work for our children to have a better life. My mother broke her butt so I can go to college. All my siblings went to college, have graduate degrees. The person I am is because of that lady, okay? I stayed on the straight and narrow, not that I was afraid of the police, but the violence that woman would perpetrate on me if I got stepped out of line. I was lucky that I had a mom that was on me and always said this, which sounds arrogant. My mother always said, you're special. You're better than that. And I think parents need to tell their children, you're special. You know who you are. You're my child. They need to be told that they're special. I don't. You have to learn how to win and lose, like playing baseball. Everybody gets a trophy now, which that guy who tried hard goes, but he got a trophy too. I learned to lose and lose with dignity, and I didn't like it, and you try better. I've had, losing games as a kid that you get that lump in your throat, you want to cry because you are second place.
Oh, yeah?
But you learn how to accept failure, get over it, do better. So I don't think people are as evil as you say they are. Are there bad people? Yes. Are there some racists? Absolutely. And you can't change that. It's ingrained in them. But I think by and large, most people are normal, that we could sit down and talk and we have common ground. Because the one thing I've said about people is this. They want three things: to be safe, to be loved, and for their children to have a better life. I don't care what color you are, what religion, what your sexual orientation is. We all want to be loved. And when you have those kids, your dreams are with that kid. So we have the same thing. So that's, I wish we could talk more. And I think, like, as a DA, when you have these issues in certain communities, bring in the community and let them voice their concern. And it might start angry at first, but you listen. You bring in the police and say, let's hash this out, because we all want the same thing. You're doing a hard job. They want you there, but they want you to be better. So listen to what their needs are, and we could work it out, absolutely. But it's talking, being quiet and listening to the other side and say, wow, I never thought of that. And then, and the other person will hear and go, I didn't think of that. And you could slice and dice and go, okay, because the bottom line is really making this city better, safer. That way our kids have opportunity. Because if we don't have industry, it's going to create more poverty.
100%.
So I really think it's important that we talk, and we need a leader to not cast blame like these people are racist or these people are bad. No, sit down and talk and say, hey, we got to talk. And I'm going to be that arbiter.
Let's talk about that. So, you and Larry have very different backgrounds, upbringings. He went to, I think, Stanford, and it was Berkeley, one of the California.
Stanford. He went to Stanford.
He went there to law school. Totally different. Comes back here, had his own practice, made a name for himself in civil rights, criminal defense. Really made a big name for himself. You pretty much are almost like the Philadelphia Rockies story, where you grinded it out. Do you think that you lived it and seen it and breathed it is a little different than living it through a textbook, like you said?
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
What I've always said is he's read about poverty in a book. He's read about violence in a book. I've lived it that. I'll use an example. There was a time in my life before I started school, I ate a plate of white rice and a fried egg. We didn't have much, and I'm there going, we're in trouble. I've walked down certain streets that I've been afraid, that I knew I had to fight. You know what I mean? In the 70s, going to school, I was in Manhattan, I go to the Bronx. In the South Bronx, at the height of the gang wars, we were fighting all the time. I couldn't tell my mom, I'm scared. She'd go, get out of here, I'm paying tuition, and you do what you got to do. But then also growing up with friends who, as I said, got ravaged by drugs. These guys were smart and talented. You yourself would go, like you have friends saying, dude, are you dumb? Look at what you're doing. And they just go off the rails. And they're good people. And they need opportunity. And, then that's why I believe in diversionary programs, because like I'll use the example of people selling drugs or shoplifting or getting caught in the slave trade of prostitution. They don't want to be that, but they need programs to help them. I really believe in redemption, and that we got to try. Okay, just don't say, well, what can you do? No, you have to do something. It's because when you see a drug addict, that's someone's child. That's someone's mother.
So about 10 years ago, like I told you, my one brother died of OD, and I have no problem saying it. Like, there's a lot of people that have problems with their family. If they're honest, just somehow rich people can hide it better than poor people, right? So let's be realistic here. My brother OD'd, and I was so mad when he died, so mad. I'll never forget, I was walking on the treadmill, and my other brother said to me, nobody wants to grow up and be a drug addict, dude. No one. He's like, no one. He's like, look at when we were kids, like our dreams were to play in it. Not that I ever played football, but to play in the NFL or whatever it may be. And somehow, when these people become drug addicts, and I don't want to use the word criminals because did they commit crimes? Yes, but I think you got to look at it. They don't want to be there, and that's where we're going to talk about the prison system next. I mean, do you agree the majority of people don't want to grow up and be drug addicts? Like, no one's at 7 years old saying my goal is to go be a heroin booter.
Absolutely not. No, think of it when you're growing up. You want to be a baseball star, a basketball star, whatever. No one said, I want to be a criminal. I want to shoot a needle. I want to be a prostitute. Nobody wants to be that. You have so many dreams. I mean, when I did the Kensington Strangler case, where he was killing those ladies and then having sex when they were dead and posing them, I talked to those parents. And they brought their high school photos, and one girl was in Little Flower. You see their graduation pictures. You see the world is their oyster. I mean, they had so much opportunity. They got saddled up by the streets. They were not. When you look at those pictures, those girls were good girls, and that addiction, did it, and they had horrific deaths. I mean, think of it. And those parents to think, my daughter was strangled and was raped. And was raped after she was dead. I mean, think of that. That's why I believe we have to not give up on them. And as I said before, they're not going to be successful the first time. But you can't say, well, it's on you. No, you got to fight for them because, as I said, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's son.
Without a doubt. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the city of Philadelphia right now. Gun violence is at an all-time high. I think gun arrests are 3 times higher than last year at this time. I mean, that's a pretty drastic jump. Illegal guns, right? Violence is at an all-time high. Homicides, not all-time high, but it's up drastically. Homicides are up, I think, almost 40% year over year. Right now, we're only 4 months into it. Do you think it's a Larry problem, or do you think it's just the environment we're in right now problem, just with everything seems to be so heightened? I mean, I'm just asking you a straight-up question.
It would be irresponsible for me to say it's a Larry problem. It's a combination of things. Is he part of the problem? Yes. But no, if we got the pandemic, businesses leaving, the rioting and demonstrations, and the issue right now with that officer being prosecuted for killing somebody. So we've had some serious problems, but as a leader, as a DA, you have to have solutions. And I've seen the articles and people talking. He blames the police, he blames the pandemic, he blames the opioid crisis, he blames poverty, he blames the school. Well, the buck has to stop somewhere. Do you not take any responsibility? It's because out of all the things he's saying, he's never said, this is my solution. This is what I'm going to do. And it's an all hands on deck solution, because the DA can't solve it alone. The police can't solve it alone. You got to work together, and you got to bring the Attorney General's office, the feds, and community leaders, church leaders, social groups, and business. Because business got money. Bring in those universities who make billions of dollars because they gobble up real estate for a stadium, reinvest in our schools, embarrass them, or make them look good. They love having a big check saying, look how good I am. Okay, get your photo op, but reinvest in our schools. Bring in vocational training, because in the journey I've had running for DA, I've talked to so many unions, and they like me because I worked at UPS, so we're talking, and they know I have that blue collar background. I work hard. And I asked them to commit to me, and they said, yeah, which is our children, college isn't for everyone. And I'll use the example of my older son, and he lives in Dublin, Ireland, which is wild, but that's another story. But he went to college, he's a computer guy. He was unhappy. He's a barber now. He likes working with his hands, and you got to do a job that you're happy with.
100%.
Okay? So with vocational training, what I told the unions is this. They say they don't ask, don't tell. You could have a funny record, and you could be a member of a union, any of the trades. And what I said is,
but don't ask, don't tell. Why shouldn't you not be able to? So what if you have a record?
Oh, no,
you deserve a second chance.
Absolutely, but what I'm saying is this: it's the reality of unfairness in society. You got that label, but the unions have committed to me. I said, I don't want a career day that you go once. I need each trade every Friday to tell them what you do. Because college isn't for everyone. And they go, I think I'd like to be a plumber, or I'd like to be an electrician, or a painter, or a carpenter. It's going to sink to someone, and then explain how much money you make, because I'm going to talk the reality. I went to college and then law school. So when I graduated, I was behind the 8 ball paying student loans. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, if you straight out of high school get one of the trades, you have no student debt. You're buying that short property, the mountain home. So who's smarter, the lawyer or that tradesperson? But they have to be told. They don't know. I was at the sheet metal workers union talking to this Latina girl, and she came up to me. She goes, I read about you, and I'm really proud of you. And I said, how did you get involved in this? She goes, I had this other career. I never knew about this, but a girlfriend is a sheet metal worker, and she told me about it. I'm making money like crazy. So it's a lack of education or being told, look, there's a whole other world that you could be successful, raise a family, accumulate wealth, but they're not told. And it's so easy. I don't need $100 million to have a union guy come there and say, this is what we do, this is how we'll train you, and this is how much you're going to make.
No, it's pretty simple. Here's a question for you. You brought up the police. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's an issue with the police? Do you truly believe we got a problem with the police on the street?
It's a difficult question because it's a yes or and no problem is this. Are there good police officers? Absolutely yes. Are there bad police officers? Absolutely. Okay? And we can't lump them all, because I could say this. I know 7 judges who went to jail. They're judges, right? They went to jail. They did criminal. I know lawyers who have sold drugs and become drug addicted. They're lawyers, but they're people. So I think the issue is that we, rather than cast blame, we have to hold bad police officers accountable. I myself in my career have prosecuted police. I prosecuted a cop for doing a double homicide, And there's a bunch of cops who hate me because how dare I prosecute someone who killed 2 people? You know what I mean? As recently as 2017, when I was still a DA, there was a homicide detective that I knew whose girlfriend committed a murder. And she called him, and he hid the evidence, took her out of the city, hid everything. And you know, I stepped forward to do it because there were other DAs who go, oh, I don't want to be homicide hating me. I don't care. He did wrong. And when I talk to the homicide detectives, they go, how dare he? We put people in jail for murder. The rules don't apply to you. And I'll use the different examples because there was this Puerto Rican homicide detective whose brother was a drug dealer who did a murder. And what he did was very honorable. He just told the chief of homicide, don't break my mother's door down. Can I bring him in? And he got his brother and brought him into homicide. That's what you do, and you let the court system sort it out. But you have to hold police accountable. And I see under Krasner's administration, he hasn't held the police accountable. He gets on TV with that soundbite, we're locking him up, but I'll give you the stats. There have been 30 police officers arrested under Krasner's administration. 17 are still awaiting trial, but 12 were thrown out at the preliminary hearing. 3 were reduced to misdemeanors. 1 got ARD, which his record is sealed, and 2 that went to trial were not guilty. So I'm going to explain something. When the FOP, a cop, is arrested, they get the best legal talent. And people may not know in the general public who the big defense attorneys are, but they're guys I work with because they're ex-DAs. Brian McMonagle, Fred Perry,
Chuck
those
Peruto,
guys.
Pete Bowers.
So they hire the best. So if you're prosecuting a police officer, you need the best DA there. I'm a homicide DA. I was trained to battle in court, okay? You can't put what I call a Mickey Mouse DA battling that kind of guy. So it's either jumping the gun, rush to judgment, or that DA is not up to snuff to battle high-priced talent in there. But one thing which is shocking, there's a Dorian Young, a police officer who shot someone in the back, okay? His sentence, which was a negotiated plea, was 11 and a half to 23 months house arrest followed by 3 years probation. So who's holding the police accountable? I did it. He talks that soundbite, didn't do it.
Here's a question for you, right? So McNesby's the head of FOP. I've asked McNesby to come on here because Larry said some things about him. I said, you have a chance to respond. He declined, never got back to me on him. They're endorsing you. This is a simple it's a statement, actually. Of the police officers, I actually believe in police officers. I think the majority of them are good. Just like I said, I believe the majority of people are good in America. But we know for a fact about 2 to 3% of the same police officers get these complaints on them year after year after year, and the FOP protects them.
Yeah.
Why? Why is McNesby doing that? Why doesn't he just say, you're a shitty-ass cop, you're creating this environment, get out?
It's something that should be done. The issue we have is this. It's a union. I work with Teamsters, and I had workers that should not have been a UPS, and that shop steward protected them.
But being a Teamster is a lot different than being a cop, where I told you I wasn't going to be easy here.
No, and you're right. What I'm
They
saying.
got to go. I am as pro-cop as you get, but I still have a problem with these unions and these leadership that just let bad cops just do bad shit and don't hold them accountable.
They have to be held accountable. That's why I say everyone should have a body cam. And also their car should have a dashboard like state troopers, that when they put it on, you're seeing everything that's going on. That way, everyone knows what's going on. It's perfect evidence. And you have to realize with the FOP, it's an elected office. You know, so I think these good cops that are these members vote the person out. I think what you need is a change in their education. And it's baby steps, but I think from the police academy, DA should be part of that training. Okay, I think judges should be part of that training, lecturing. I believe community leaders should be part of that training, and business people, because then, as a young person, cadet, you're going, okay, this is part of my training. The judges are talking today. The defense attorney is talking today. You know, the community people, church people are talking today. Business people are talking today. So as they continue that education, rather than have that knee-jerk reaction as we're cops, we train ourselves, you don't know what we're going through. Suddenly we're included in that education. They go, oh, okay, you know, there's not that knee-jerk reaction. Go, you're not one of us. We're part of that training. And when I talk about the business community being involved is this. I've had business people, you know, barbers, grocery stores owners saying this. I love the cops, but I don't know who they are. They stay in their police cars. And once again, I talk about Krasner asked for $100 million. The simplest solution, every cop has a sector that they know. Pick a day of the week, Thursday. Get out your car, go in that barber shop and say, I'm Officer So-and-so, what's your name? Go in that grocery store, buy a soda, get a hoagie, go to the hair salon. How simple is that to do that we don't have to do some mega training? They want to see us. I mean, I had the luxury having my mom's stores. The cops, and there were beat cops, would eat in the back of the store to get warm. So I got to see the cops. They got to know me. And I remember when I do some dumb stuff, I'd be grabbed and say, hey, you want me to tell your mom? They knew us.
They actually policed the neighborhoods back then to where now. But and I hate to stick up for the police. It's very hard because the media has everyone so scared of the police. They think the police are bad. Where I actually had to say to my son, he's 7 years old. He asked me about 6 months ago. A good friend of ours wrestled together. His dad's a cop. He goes, "Is this person, I'm going to say his name, a bad person because my teacher said all cops are bad and they're racist?" Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, he's a great man. He's a great father. He's a great coach, and he's a great police officer. This guy isn't doing what these other people are doing. I mean, could you see how a cop's a little hesitant right now to say, let me walk in here and get to know you?
And I see it talking to the police. They're hesitant to do their job.
I would be.
Okay. But there's some programs, and it's not a program. I'm going to use two instances. I live in South Philly, and there was a Captain Campione, and he did a program which I think it should be complete police policy. He had all his officers take these pictures like a baseball card with their stats, where they went to high school, what sports they played. And he put out in the community of, if you get the set, you go to the police station, you get a toy. And it was a set for each squad. So you get this squad, so let's say it's day work, you get that set. The night work, you get that. So suddenly they're running to police cars saying, can I get your card? And they're talking to the cops. And then they're going to the police station, not because their dad or mother got into trouble, because I'm getting a toy. That's talk about thinking outside the box of being human.
I love that ideal. And I've never done this before in this show, year and a half now. I'll give you $10,000, or Larry, whoever stays in, if you make that a citywide program. I'll donate the $10,000 in cash.
And I would do it, take it,
You'll
absolutely.
take the $10,000. I'll cut you a check tomorrow. I have no dog.
Well, I have to win the election May 18th.
Because that's a hell of a program, and kudos to that captain, just to get people involved, kids involved, to get to know the police, because what you see is what you're not going to be scared of.
Yeah. And talk about how simple that was to get the kids to run to a police car rather than run away from it. And a good attitude of going to the police station. Because when you go to that police station, there are coloring books and everything. And I do it because sometimes the kids are there and they're people getting processed. But it was such a smart idea. Like in the 24th district, there's a captain there that they hand out turkeys and coats. And they go to the block parties. When you're handing out food and coats for the kids, those parents are saying, that cop is good. My kid's warm. They got a coat and it's free. And I would want big business who has money. Like you said, I'll cut you a check.
I'll do it tomorrow. That's a program I wouldn't even do. No one even have to sell me on it. I'd cut it because I was one of those kids that Sergeant Kelly, I think he's a lieutenant down the Philadelphia Police Force, helped save me and my brother. He let us go when we got in trouble, helped us out. He was a good cop.
Yeah.
When every other cop just wanted to lock us up.
Yeah, I remember going to a crime scene once with a homicide detective, and we're in North Philly. He pulls over and goes to a bodega, and he got a gallon of milk and knocked on the door, and he gave a gallon of milk to this lady because she was a witness of mine, and they don't have a lot of money. Like, that was out of his pocket, and, that gallon of milk was, those kids are drinking. They're getting fed. So, what I say is there are police individually doing great things, but we got to institute it like saying, hey, we got to do this across the board because we're not the police. We're part of the community.
Let's talk about the community, because the police aren't going to be able to stop the violence the way it's heading at this point. You're not going to have enough police. How do you stop the violent crime? Like, I get, things happen, there's spikes, but the trend is no one's friend right now. We agree that, right?
No, absolutely. And
so what's your first thing? You win. You're our new DA. Let's be realistic. I love Chuck Peruta. He's a great friend of mine. There's no shot at a Republican ever winning in Philadelphia. Okay. I mean,
well, I'll give
so
you.
What do you do?
I'll give you some stats first before I tell you what my solution is.
Okay.
And we discussed it before. I did from the district attorney's own data board. Okay, his stats, not making it up. And I got the stats for this year alone. which is from January 1st to March 31st. In the shootings, there were 48 that were arrests made. The DA's office agreed with the charges. He withdrew 33 of those cases. I'm sorry, 22. Gunpoint robberies, 85 gunpoint robberies that arrest was made, the charges approved by the DA's office. 63 of those cases were withdrawn.
75%.
Okay. Aggravated assaults by gun, where someone is shot. 131 of those, 113 were withdrawn. And then 233 gun arrests, like, a cop stops you, he finds an illegal gun on you. 233. They withdrew 152 of those cases. So if you add that up, that was 497 gun arrests, gun crime, violence. He withdrew 350. That's 70%. So if you say, like what they're saying, if the murder rate doesn't slow down, we're going to have 600 murders this year or more. And if you thought 500 was bad last year, if we have 600, it's just escalating. So my immediate solution, first day in office, is institute focused deterrence program. That program has worked. It was done with Harvard studies.
Tell our viewers what it is.
Okay. It's a program where you do research of that violence in a community is perpetrated by a few people. It could be a drug gang or just a regular gang. They're doing all the crime that is holding this neighborhood hostage. So what you do is an all-hands-on-deck approach. You get local police doing their intelligence, the federal government, DEA, ATF, doing the research on these groups, and then the Attorney General's office. So you got 3 different law enforcement agencies who know everything about them, who they are, what they're doing, where they're living. Then you bring in community leaders, okay? You get young people and older people who have been in the system, been in jail, come out, that are like role models, that they say, look, I did this, I did my time. So they're what we call violence interrupters. And then you bring in church leaders, social workers to address their needs of, do you have a drug problem? Do you have learning, And then you bring in businesses to say these are opportunities we're giving you, okay? At which point, then you have what's called call-in sessions, because we know who they are. And we come in and say, guys, we're having a meeting at this hall. And the police say, listen, here are all you guys. We know who all you are. You sell drugs. You're the guy who holds the guns. We know all about you. But we're giving you this chance. There are these social workers here. They'll address your needs. You got a drug problem, I'm going to take care of it. You need an educational thing, help with the GD, we got that solved. We got these business people offering you jobs. We got people from the unions offering you apprentices in their trade. So you can do that. So you could stay on the corner waiting to get shot or having to shoot someone to protect your product. Because what we call these young people is at-risk youth. We don't call them criminals. At risk of dying or at risk of getting arrested. We're trying to save them. Mm-hmm. So they are given that choice now of saying, okay, here's an opportunity. I can get off the streets. I can do something. Or do I want to be that knucklehead that we know that I'm going to go my way? If they choose to commit more crime, we know who they are. They're arrested and prosecuted appropriately and swiftly, okay? Which is some will go into the federal system, go into the state system. And then the younger people say, like, wow, I had this shot going here, and those guys chose to, they knew better, and now they're in jail. Those people are going to put down the guns, and they're going to put it down themselves, okay? Because you can't incarcerate yourself out of the problem. But when these guys seeing a message saying, wow, they're helping me. It's not like I got to figure it out myself. They're giving me a roadmap to help me, or I can do that, and I saw who my role model is now doing 10 years. I don't want to go there 10 years. I want to stay home. So that focused deterrence program, it works. It's needed. And Krasner took out that program when he took office. And, and now he's trying to do some hybrid. It's not working. It lets you have consequences because those stats I gave you about the gun crimes, that shows no consequence. You have to protect our communities from violence.
Well, who's going to tell you, and this is what he'll say is, our prisons are overcrowded. And that's what he's going to say, which is true. The prisons are overcrowded. Most people don't realize that. But I was doing some research before I met you, and I wish I knew this stat. 34% of people in Philadelphia and PA are in prison because they violated parole or probation.
Yeah.
Of that, over 90% of those violations are misdemeanors.
Correct.
That's lunacy. No offense, like that is lunacy.
And
Like,
that's
what are they doing in jail for a misdemeanor just because they're on parole? Like, that is lunacy.
and the problem is this: there's some people who need to be incarcerated. The violent people, a shooter.
people right there.
Okay. Now there are people who are not committing violent crimes, which they shouldn't be there. And the problem we have, am I being in the front line? I never was a unit chief. I was in the front lines. When I would meet the probation officer, already everything was in place. The detainer was there. The person was locked up. What we need to do, and what my office would do, is this. The probation, and I've talked to the probation people, is this. I need a unit that we're talking to probation, and we get the problem before it becomes a problem. And I use this example, which I talked to you before. A guy gets out of prison. He's on parole. He has nowhere to live because he doesn't have a job yet. So he's living with mom. But mom's dating a guy who's a total,
Sure.
I won't use inappropriate language, but not a nice person. And he's disrespecting his mom, or maybe slapped his mom. The guy's going to either get high or not go home or not check in because he is angry, like, I want to beat this guy up, but I don't want to go back to jail and all this stuff. Well, I need that probation officer to call me and say, listen, technically he wasn't home, but he's having issues of where to live. So let's work this out and get a girlfriend or whatever we can do to get him on his feet, that he's not in that thing. So we can avoid all this by actually communicating with the probation department, because probation officers do want to help their clients, but they don't get to meet me until it's too late. What I'm saying is, no, don't meet me too late. Call me now. Let's fix this problem together. Have the judge involved, because judges don't want to put people in jail. You know what I mean? Like, they do, but they want to monitor them and say, okay, go into this program, and we work together to salvage them, because they're not bad people. They're not committing
with technology, right? I'm a technology guy, right? Mm-hmm. And you can go buy 5,000 or 10,000, 20,000 Apple Watches. Mm-hmm. Give it to every non-violent offender. GPS it right into the Philadelphia's main district attorney's office or probation, and know where every single person is, and saying, hey, listen, all you people that violated parole and violated probation on a misdemeanor, I'm letting you out of prison, making room for real criminals, and it will cost you an Apple Watch and some systems integration.
Which I said, we got to go 21st century. I have no idea why we do that, when you're right. An Apple Watch, get big business involved. It's cheaper to get a monitor, be it a watch or whatever, than to incarcerate someone.
Costs $45,000 a year to incarcerate somebody.
Especially when they shouldn't be in jail. They're not violent. There are two types of people. People who are putting us in danger, okay, that our children are dying. But there are those people who are what I call victims of injustice, of unfairness, of drug addiction, which, they're good people, but, you got to help them, but
people make mistakes. The reason why I get so angry during this is the system's so easy to see. Mm-hmm. You're employing prison guards. You're employing prison healthcare workers. You're employing all these people. It's become such a big business, the prison system. And it's just become one big business instead of someone just saying, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. You got all these people screaming defund the police. They shouldn't be screaming defund the police. They should be saying, give them more money, train them better, defund the prison system.
No, absolutely, but no one has.
If they were smart, defund the prison system.
But the people doing this didn't live your life or my life. You understand? It's these, I've heard people say, these intellectuals who say, yes, this is what poverty's like, because they read about it.
Yeah.
They drive through a neighborhood.
Send me that book.
People who have lived it, who could be in positions that could make a change, need to be there. I'll use an example that I want to do an adopt a school program. The reality is this: most of the DAs hired don't come from my background. Okay, they're usually, it's not being mean, but their daddies are judges or doctors, whatever. So they don't know our community. When I say our community, poor communities, because there are white people that are poor, there are black people poor. There are poor people, and they have the same nightmare. It's poverty. So my adopt a school program I want is this: we got 319 DAs right now. I want them to, every other week, go to a school, adopt that school, a grammar school, where they go in from 8 to 3 or whatever the length of the school is there. Watch the kids come into school. See the parents who are bringing there. Go in there, get donuts, talk to the parents, talk to the faculty. be a role model for the kids that, I never saw a lawyer other than on TV. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't know. I never spoke to one, So suddenly you got a role model with the kids. Parents are talking to you, and, people are hesitant to call the police, like saying, I'm going to have to testify. But let's say there's a drug problem on that corner, or that house is a nuisance house. They could tell that DA that they see on a regular basis saying, that's the problem, that house. And we could take care of that without them getting involved. And then I also would do what I call children's court, where then the DA, and it's a program they've had in New York and other cities, where the children monitor their infractions on their own. It's with the teacher's permission, of course, but let's say a kid does an infraction and the teacher agrees to it. They have like a little jury trial. You got 12 kids that are jurors, you got a judge, a DA, a defense attorney, and they put on the case. And then if the kid's found guilty of the infraction, the kids decide what the punishment is. Write a letter of apology, clean the classroom, something like that they learn, how to deal with things in an appropriate way, that as opposed to fighting and all that stuff. Because, when they do an infraction, suspending the kid, that's a holiday for them. I get to watch TV. You know what I'm saying? Keep them in the school, let them know they did something wrong. And then when their peers are saying, dude, that was messed up. Sometimes it's not the teacher saying it or your mother. It's the kid saying, you're being a knucklehead.
No doubt.
At which point you go, you know what? You got me. That was a dumb thing.
I'm pretty passionate about reform, the prison system, because I just see how unjust it's been to, I don't just think black people, but also white poor people, poor Latinos. I grew poor and really getting screwed by the system all around. Mm-hmm. The next class I'm going to say gets really screwed by the system is drug addicts. And we just hit national news for what they call Skid Row down in Kensington. What would be your first thing to stop that? Because as a father, like you said you are, as a grandfather, which you will be, I'm a father, our worst nightmares that our children, my mom had to live it now multiple times, become drug addicts. This isn't helping that when people can just go out there and shoot drugs and be on the corners. It's hurting the neighborhood so bad and no one's stopping it. What would you do to stop that? Because do you see the problem or do you not see the problem?
No, it's a major problem. I was in Kensington. They're shooting up in front of everyone. There is no consequence. And when you look at the few businesses that are there, how can you run a business when that's happening outside your door? It's a disaster. Think of it. They closed a subway station. Talk about quality of life. These people got to walk maybe 5 blocks to that train station. That's shut down. You got to walk 20 blocks to the next station. These are people trying to work. People are afraid in the subway because of what's happening. The way you address it is absolutely. You have to intervene. And I'm not saying putting these people in jail. There are what I call pre-arrest programs that you bring them in, that you go, okay, these are the programs that we could put you in, or you could go get your own program. Before Krasner, there was a program that, let's say you got locked up because you were shooting up. Mm-hmm. You come in and saying, I'm going to go to Gadenzia House or whatever, and say, here's my application. I start my program this day. The DA's office would call to verify, is this guy in there? And then periodically, the person would come in to court, and we'd call to say, is he still in there? Is he going to the meetings and all that stuff? So you're monitoring them. You're not putting them in jail. There was a thing called the AMP program, Alternative Misdemeanor Program. And that program was in the 24th Police District, the 8th, 39th. It was several districts that they would 2 days a week do about 200 drug cases. In there, they had the PD and the DA and the judge working together. Think of it. Not saying put this guy in jail. Let's save this person. And they had social workers and nurses there. They were checking their health in terms of, you're HIV, do you have tuberculosis? Social workers saying, do you have a medical card? Okay, I got my laptop, let's fill out this form. And they were calling on a regular basis. And I remember the DAs were saying, like, sometimes the PD and the DA would say, listen, Judge, really give this guy encouragement because he's really doing well. And the judge bring up and go, Mary, you're doing a great job, and I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to see you next week. Then there was another guy saying, this guy's really messing up. And then they tell the judge, goes, you know what? I'll give you another chance, but I'm going to lock you up. Think of it. It wasn't adversarial. It was saying, I'm a lawyer on one side, I'm a lawyer on the other, I'm a judge, but these people are not bad people. They're hurting. We're trying to give them opportunities. When Krasner took office, that doesn't exist anymore. I've had judges that had to remain apolitical, but they said, Carlos, this stuff was working, and he took it away. So when you see this in Kensington, no. those people, and I say it once again, that's someone's child or someone's mother. That you don't throw them away and let them shoot up. Like growing up with heroin, you know how they bend over and you think they're gonna fall and they never do. I lived it. Krasner never seen that in his neighborhood.
You know, I'm going to give you one step even further with technology. Now imagine we live in a world the police, because I have a video actually from about 6-7 months ago. I was down there looking at a piece of property to buy, and I didn't buy it for this reason. I have 2 police officers watching 2 men just sitting there, and a woman, whatever, just shooting heroin. They didn't do anything. Now, I'm not saying the police did a bad job here anyway, because I'm sure they got told to stand down, not to make an arrest. I'm sure that all came, because I do generally believe 99% of the police, 98% of the police want to make Philadelphia better. I wholeheartedly believe that. Why would you go do that job? It just doesn't pay that much to go. Not that it doesn't pay that much. That came out the wrong way for all the ass ache that comes with it. But now imagine if those police officers could walk up to that person, say, listen, we're not going to arrest you, but our laptop APIs into 20 dry centers, I call them, where they get you dry and clean. We're going to take you there. Then these people working there, the social workers, healthcare people, put these people into rehabs instead of prison systems. I bet you rehab facilities charge a lot less than $45,000 a year.
No, absolutely, and it'd be great if
And
they
imagine what you do for the person and the community.
and you can do that because it's different levels. There are those that the cops say, "Look, I'm taking you here," and some may say yes or no. Then there's my program, which would be like the AMP program. That's saying you're not doing this willingly,
Yeah.
so I've got to do this. And then the final solution is those guys who really, really want to do it. They have to be prosecuted, and the judge says, "Listen, your sentence could be inpatient or jail. You know, which one do you want?" So absolutely, your solution is great. It'll work for some, okay? Because some people hit rock bottom and do it on their own sometimes, and that would be great. You know, if the police would have what they call those catchment centers to take them there, absolutely. But I think by and large, what I'm seeing, and when they're in the super throes of that, you gotta
Or even if
have
you
it
got to force them, I don't care. Just get them there. I mean, make it better. I mean, you know, Philadelphia's a very proud city. You know, I love Philadelphia. I love Bucks County. I started my company here. It's been great to me. And I see what's going on. And I don't, like you said, I don't blame Krasner. I definitely don't blame the police by any means. I actually think it'd be a lot worse without the great men and women we have. I think it's, like you said, if you haven't lived it, you haven't seen it, it's hard to fix it. And you gotta, people look at things, you know, through ivory towers. They look at things, like when I hear people say, oh, well, their kid's a drug addict, don't hang with Johnny. I'm like, or this kid got in trouble, don't hang with Johnny. I'm like, what do you think you were doing when you were 20 years old, 21 years old?
But that's the issue with like Krasner almost allowing this to happen. Like he's saying, it's wrong. These people, you hurt them only by intervening. I've talked to several people who have recovered from addiction, and what was interesting, because I hate those people that read about things in a book. Now I'm talking to a former drug addict, and he said, you know when I really went into a program? When I had shot up and I'm lucid. Not when I was hurting. Because when I was hurting, I'd say anything to get that fix. He says, when I took that needle and I was feeling good, and then they spoke to me, it made total sense. Like, going, damn, I'm messing up. You know, so I need guys who have lived it and know all the excuses, because it's hard. You know, like I heard like the example when Krasner was running the first time that he's the whitest black man. You know, I'm Puerto Rican. I was born this way. I'm going to die this way. People have liked me or hated me because of who I am. I'm not a tourist saying I want people Puerto Rican today. I'm in it. You understand? So it's really offensive to me that somebody would say that. You have never walked in the shoes of a black person. You don't know what being black is unless you're black.
100%.
You don't know what being poor is until you're poor.
100%.
You know, and when you talk about, and you're successful, right? But look at where you came from. You earned this. You know what I mean? And all those missteps you had made you a better person.
100%.
That you enjoy what you've done. Like, I've never had a bad day, because I think of having that plate of white rice and an egg and what I do now. I go, wow, you know, every day's a good day.
It is, and I try, and that's my biggest thing to young kids. That's why, you know, I used to be so ashamed. I posted something yesterday, me 30 years ago, it was me walking with my head down. I was insecure, scared. You can clearly see that's not me today. I'm proud of who I am. Like, before you came on, I said, yo, full transparency, I was in trouble when I was younger. Like, I didn't lie to you. Like, I was in a fist fight. I was in fist fights. Like, I wasn't out slinging guns on people. I wasn't robbing houses. I was a poor kid. That was a tough kid. That was just it. And, but like you said, the system labels people. And that has to change because businesses, AT&T, I was the vice president of AT&T for the whole country. They never looked at me as a guy that got in trouble 25 years ago. They looked at me as a guy that helped build them a $100 million plus revenue company and helped them grow it. These people here, I'm proud of my life story because I want 10 other Lance Bachmans out there that are insecure as a kid and scared and maybe thought about killing themselves when they were younger. All the things I went through to say, you know what, this guy's doing it. I'm in. I'm in.
But they need people like you and people like me to say, hey, I'm here. Was it hard? Hell yeah. Is it unfair? Hell yeah. But you can do it because you're better than that. Because I think people need to.
It's 15 hours a day, like you did. 15 hours a day for me here. And it's just, but you got to have fun. You got to be passionate. But you also got to know life is unfair. You told me a story, which I got pissed off about because I told you stories of my nephews when they were saying Trump's going to deport them because they were Puerto Rican. And a judge said, wait for a translator to come in. Mm-hmm. And like you blew it off. And you're a very charismatic guy. You are. You're good looking. You're charismatic. Couldn't believe you're 64. You are. But a judge shouldn't be saying that to you because you're Puerto Rican. And that's a problem. And that's why people are getting so heated. Because I can tell you this, if a judge said that to one of my nephews, I would want to fucking choke him. Like the hair stand up on my arm again because where do people think they can just say such racist things and think it's a joke?
It's the arrogance of people in positions of power. I'll tell you, in terms of that judge pales in comparison to when I was in the DA's office. When I was in the DA's office, 5 people failed the bar. Everybody thought I failed the bar because I'm Puerto Rican. I passed, okay? It was the other guys who failed. I've defense attorneys. I remember I was in homicide maybe 20 years already. I'm doing the murder case of a police officer that was murdered on duty. Not every homicide DA does a murder of a police officer. That is a very important case. I remember this defense attorney who was a public defender goes, oh, you only got that case because you're a token. So my whole career, even now, I get little shots like that. As a parent, you're a parent, you don't want your children to suffer that harm. I remember when I lived in Roxborough, I had a racial incident, ethnic intimidation. The guy got arrested. I hated it so much because you could say whatever I want, but with the words that came out of that man's mouth, my daughter was in first grade then. And she asked me after it was all over, she goes, what is a spick? And I go, well, when we came to this country, we didn't speak English, so a lot of people would talk to us and we'd say, no, speak English, and they would call us spicks. But it broke my heart thinking, well, why? I lived it, but to tell my little girl that, I'm a lawyer, I'm putting her in school, that I left, I moved out of Roxborough. I hated it. And it was just one guy, but I just hated Roxborough. I saw it all as racist, and, now I go like, that was dumb.
Of course.
But I moved to South Philly, where I was welcomed. It's more like New York. I could walk to the bakery and the store and all that stuff. And I'm not Carlos, I'm Carlo over there. You know what I mean? Yeah. But, I felt at home there because, Italians have a different flavor. They got a swag. I remember one time I had a case where a black murderer told an Italian kid that he had done it. And the defense attorney goes, well, why would a black guy tell a white guy? He goes, I'm not white, I'm Italian. And the jury started laughing because Italians have that, they're proud of being Italian.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But, so even as an adult, I face things that are wrong. I've pushed that envelope and opened doors. Because think of it, I'm the first and only Latino prosecutor that made it to homicide and stayed there 30 years. I was the only one.
And let's talk about that. You and Larry have a long history, and that's who you're running against. And really, like I said, I have no dog in the fight. I don't do politics. I respect you both. I told you before you came on here, I respect Larry. I know Larry. I believe he believes in his mission. Whether I agree with the whole thing or I believe in prison reform. I think anyone watching this believes I think blow it all up. But that's my opinion. Here's my question to you, and it's going to be a point-blank question. You and Larry have a case. You beat him on a triple homicide.
Yes.
As soon as it was over, he runs for DA. Mm-hmm. Do you think that propelled him, or do you think he knew? Do you think, because you guys clearly aren't fans of each other?
Well, the thing is, I knew of Larry like for 30 years, of him. I only did one case against him. Only one. There are other lawyers that I had cases, like Brian McMonagle or Fred Perry, because they're homicide defense attorneys. They make big bucks. And I don't mean to insult Larry, but he wasn't in my league. I only saw him on one case, and it was a court appointment. The guys that I worked with that are defense attorneys, they get paid to that. They don't do court appointments. They get paid. So I had that triple homicide, and I knew of Larry because he rented office space to ex-DAs who became defense attorneys. And I would visit my friends because whether they were DAs or defense attorneys, we're friends.
Absolutely.
So I'd be in his office, I'd say hi, but I never talked to him like, how are your kids or let's have lunch or anything like that, or somebody high and by that you see. And I seen in the hallway in the courtroom. So I had no bad blood with him. I tried the case. I remember, and I told you before, when I was in second grade, I was left back. And I thought I was stupid. I found out later I didn't know how to speak English. So I'd always pray for me to pass to the next grade and that my mother wouldn't be killed. That's kind of a messed up
It's horrible.
thing. But when I met those girls whose mother, father, and aunt were killed in front of them, and I remember the girls came up to me and say, will you be my DA? I go, I don't take special requests, And they gave me the case. And when I talked to them, it like, they lived what I was afraid of. And I was glad at that point that what I wanted to be was a voice for people like my mother. I was there for those girls. Like, they've adopted me. They call me. They invite me to birthday parties and stuff like that. So, towards the end of my career, I was able to do stuff for those mothers because I even, when I was going to retire, told the DA, I said, I will try 3 or 4 murders a year for you for free, and I'll mentor the new guys. Because I still got that passion and I got that energy that I feel like I'm turning my back on those mothers because you have no idea. With every case I had, those mothers always said the same thing. They killed my baby. And you meet them in the worst of circumstances. And, and I talk to them and they all have my cell number and they call me about different issues. And then I remember at trial, because a lot of days would make fun of me because they say I'm weird, was when a parent's sitting there at trial, you're impotent, like you're just watching. So I would always give them a job. So like one family, I'd say, you got to bring me milk and Oreos. Or another person could bring me Spanish coffee. And, because they go, okay, we're getting the DA something, we're helping in this fight. Give them something. And I remember a bunch of years ago, when I was a baby homicide DA, I did this murder case. And the mother complained because I looked too young, because I'm older now and I think I look pretty good. But she complained, what a college kid is doing this. And it was a hung jury. Then we tried it again, and it was a guilty. And what she said was so profound. She goes, thank you, but it doesn't bring my baby back. Because we call it justice, but guess what? If there were justice, that child should be back. You
100%.
understand? And then the case was reversed because the judge made a mistake. And I tried it again. Now I'm an old seasoned guy. And she brought the Oreos and everything like that. And I remember she had an issue because I was Puerto Rican and young. I go, you still want that old white guy? She goes, no, I want my Puerto Rican baby. But years later, a guy came up to me in suburban station, says, are you Carlos Vega? And I go, yeah. He goes, my mother passed away, but she wanted me to give you something. And he came to my office and brought me a whole thing of Oreos. And it's really humbling that, I met her in the worst of circumstances in the 80s. In the 2000s, she yes. still remembered me.
Larry fired you day when he walked through the doors.
Yeah.
You're suing him now. I don't want to get into it because I know it's in federal court. That case is still open. You were the first one to go, and I think about 34 other people looked like
31 were fired.
31 were fired. Do you believe it had anything to do with that case, or you just believed it had to do with I can't get into too much because of what it is, but do you think he just disagreed with your belief system?
I can't get into it because it's under litigation, and his lawyers asked for it to be sealed. Okay. I would love it to be unsealed because then you'd know. But I cannot address that issue. But he got rid of 31 people when the city was closed in a snowstorm without even so much as an interview.
Do you think, and I'm not going to bash Larry because, like I told you, I know him, I respect him, I'm friends with him. I just think that'd be unfair because I wouldn't do it to you. I respect you and I like you, and I just think that's unfair. But from an opinion standpoint, do you think Larry's too far progressive to what Philadelphia needs, and that's why violence is increasing? Or do you think it's, no, he has the right mindset, but he's just not rolling out correctly?
He's in over his head. That's what it is.
Okay.
You needed institutional knowledge. And in running in any company, you need the institutional knowledge because you're new in there. Mm-hmm. And then you bring in your people slowly. In my running, people have asked me, when you come in, are you going to fire everyone? Hell no. Absolutely not. That's stupid. Okay? What I'm going to do is, this is all these new people that he's hired from Harvard, Stanford, and all those elite schools, is I got to look at their personnel files. I had to interview them. And then I had to send my people to observe them in court and everything and say, okay, this person's good but needs more training, or this person's lazy, or this person just can't cut the mustard. I'll use the example of the appeals unit during the pandemic. Appeals just write briefs. They're on their computers and they do their research on the computers. The Supreme Court has issued an order of why are you not putting in your briefs on time and asking for continuances. That is a lack of running the office. I mean, you don't have the excuse of pandemic when you're an appellate lawyer. And the Supreme Court had to write a letter that's an embarrassment to saying your appellate unit is asking for extensions. Why? So he's in over his head. He doesn't work well with others. And this is the thing about a leader. I'm confident enough that I know what I'm doing. But I'm confident enough to know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Okay? And that says a lot. When you can shut up and say, what do you have to say? And to solve this problem, I have to shut up and bring in community leaders and say, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What do you need? Okay? I need to have the federal government come in and say, we got these agencies and we can do this. I can go to the Attorney General's office, and I've spoken to Josh Shapiro. And think of it, he's going to be the governor probably. I want to kiss his butt because when he's governor, I can get more funding from him. And Krasner, you could read in the paper, of the people who were fired and went to the AG's office, he was calling them that he was harboring Nazi war criminals. When
you work with the police, because you left the police out of there. And I was surprised by that. I'm going to be honest.
No, I wasn't finished with that.
Yeah.
What it is, and you have to bring the police. You understand? The police are at the front lines, but they need the help of those other agents and things. So no, the police. But in terms of that, you have to. You can't be calling these guys are racist and you're a Nazi war criminal and all that stuff. You got to say, I need you. I don't have to like you, okay? But I need your help. And you have to have, the most important thing is the community there. They're your eyes and ears of what we're doing right and wrong. But all those groups got to work together because then you can address it. You got funding, agents, intelligence, all that stuff. And he has broken bonds with everyone. And you can't do that. It's fractured the police that, you see they're at odds.
Oh, they hate each other. There's no denying the police hate Krasner. I don't think Krasner likes the police.
And that is a shame and a sin and criminal, because what he needs to do is like two parents arguing and the kid goes, can you stop fighting? I just want to eat dinner. You got to bring in the cops. Bring in the community and say, guys, we're working on a team, rather than say, oh, they suck and they're no good. No. Bring them in and talk. Let them hash it out, because after a while, they're going to talk and say, okay, I think we're all on the same page.
Relationships matter.
And he has
relationships matter. And business relationships matter. And you are a business when you're a leader. You're a leader. You have been a leader. He's a leader. Relationships matter. I mean, no different than I said to McNesby when I called him up and I texted him. I said, listen, you're welcome to come on. I want to know why. I'm friendly with McNesby. I like McNesby. I think he's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. But I want to know, why are the same people that keep getting complaints on him still police officers and destroying the reputation of the Philadelphia police that I respect and admire?
And you're right. They have to be held accountable. But as a leader, and you could see this, he doesn't work well with others. He is, it's crazy because he talks about my being a Trump candidate, all that stuff. He uses the same lines as Trump, which is promises made, promises kept. Also, it's his way or the highway. He's never won. It's everyone else's fault. Who is that? And then I remember a video that I saw that he's talking. He goes, I'm the public defender with power. Now think of it. I'm not thinking of power. I'm a DA. I want to be the DA to do some good and make us safe, bring in reform. and bring in safety that we deserve.
I love your
both.
reform policy. I love the way you think about the second chances, the pardons, the sealing records. Like, I do love that. I love the fact that, I'm a true believer in, if you didn't hurt a child, rape a woman, like something crazy, kill someone, you deserve a second chance in life, and not everyone should know your business. I think there's someone like me that doesn't care, that wants to. I actually want to help children and make lives better for kids that are at risk. I mean, I was one. So not everyone wants that, though, because of when you're in a room, people still look at me sometimes and like,
Oh yeah,
and I laugh. I'm like, okay, whatever. I can give a shit less for you.
But you have to realize this. You can talk to me about that because we're basically the same.
Oh, yeah.
When you think
You
of
lived
it,
it.
I've been luckier because
No doubt. I get it.
But I've had to fight. I've been worried. So when you saying that, what I say is, damn, you did really good. You kicked some butt. You understand? But to what I call the elites, they go, oh my goodness, that's horrible. And it's a shame because they don't know. They haven't lived it. And it's a shame that, and it's, look, I can't fault somebody for being born rich. It's great. You know what I mean? But you don't tell us what to do or how we think when you haven't lived it.
You could be rich and teach your kids how to go down to certain neighborhoods I'm not going to point out and hang out with different people, but you're getting a different community than where I live, and I think that's very important for cross communities to be interacting with each other.
You do, and I think kids have to. You could be rich and still have your kids earn stuff. It's like the first car I bought, I was a DA for 2 years that I saved and got a car. All right, my daughter bought her car. I didn't buy it for her. You understand?
Yeah.
Because it means more when I had to save. I had to do this. And being rich, I wish I were a millionaire that I could give my children a house each and everything. Absolutely. But they have to earn things. They have to appreciate what they have. And you appreciate a used car that you bought or you're shining as opposed to saying, oh, here's your car. My daughter went to Carroll. And, it's in Radnor, so you had the rich kids and the Philly kids that were bussed in, and then you see at 16, they had Range Rovers, all that stuff.
100%.
And you have that. They became friends, but, she sees, wealth, but I'm not that guy. You got to earn it.
Let's talk about, and I know we're coming to the end of the show, but I want to get this in. You just said something that was really eye-opening to me about wealth and about how times have changed. When me and you grew up, we didn't have social media. Mm-hmm. And when I grew up, the community cornered for the underdog. They loved the underdog. Teachers jumped in, Mr. Yates, Hounds, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Orr. The community rallied around. If I got into a fight and got in trouble, they rallied around us to make us better. Mm-hmm. Social media seems like it's just the opposite now. You're a scumbag, you're a loser, the parents are after the kids are it almost seems like it's insanity. I mean, what's your view on social media and how it's just making no one have a second chance?
Social media is causing major harm. And that's why I want my Adopt a School program so they can learn how to mediate and address those issues. But I've seen a lot of murders occurring. It's a new phenomena. These are called Twitter wars and Instagram wars. They escalate to the point that they do a drive-by and shoot somebody. And that's insane. So, we have to address what's going on in media. We have to address that. But it also goes down to the parents because I can't fix every problem.
No.
It's the parent having certain rules. I remember I was at some community thing and a mother came up very honestly saying, well, does the police have a program to teach children respect? And I'm going, yeah, it's in the house. I don't know if you're religious or not.
No, I'm Catholic.
Okay, I'm Catholic, and I always find it strange when somebody talks about God all the time. It freaks me out. But I pray to myself and everything. But being in murders, I've seen some kids punching the wall and everything like that because they have no sense of God. When you're in trouble in the darkness, you go, Jesus, what the hell am I going to do? Mm-hmm. He doesn't answer you, but you're talking to somebody. But I see we need a sense of God in your life. We need respect of our parents, and we have to respect our parents. But the Twitter wars is escalating. They're just letting it go rampant. And I think the only way to address it, and I talked to some parents because they said, address that thing. And I asked them this question, which goes back to my being confident. I go, well, what's your solution? And they said, well, We didn't think about it. I said, well, when you come with you see, because that's it. Because I have my ideas, which is you got to get the parents involved. You got to get the schools involved. And maybe talking to these big companies saying maybe the way you monitor some political speech, why don't you monitor this stuff? And maybe have the police monitor this jargon going, okay, there's going to be a drive-by because these two gangs are fighting it out. But it's a difficult problem that I don't know the complete answer. I have some ideas, but it was very interesting when I told those mothers, what's your solution? And they said, I don't know.
It's a major problem right now, social media, all around. The election's about 3 weeks away at this point in time.
Yes.
Tell everybody watching this why they should vote for you. Tell Philadelphia why they should vote for you.
Reason you should vote for me is this. I've been committed and love this city. I've been a DA for 35 years. I was so committed that I worked 15 years at UPS to be your voice. I've seen what is unfair in this city and this country, and we need reform, absolutely. But we also need safety because no parent should get a knock on the door that their child has been killed or shot. So I think we need both. We need a person who can do both. I need change, I need reform, but I need to make you safe. And you need a leader to say, I don't have all the answers, but these are my solutions, and I'm willing to listen to all of you because I want all your help to make our city better, make our children thrive, and make businesses thrive. So that's why I'm doing it, because I care, I'm passionate about it. It's not about money, power, or fame. I didn't write a book. I didn't make a movie. I'm doing this for you. Because I told one friend that was thinking of leaving, I said, I'm fighting for children and parents who don't even know who I am, so their child won't be killed. So I do what I say, the old DA used to say, we do God's work. I'm doing this for our children, for our safety, and all the injustices that I've had to shoulder and break barriers. I know what's needed. I know what needs to be changed. And I can't do it all in one day, but I'm going to work year in and year out to make those changes, to give second chances to those people, because most people are good. But I need to make you safe from those people who just live by their own set of rules. I can do both.
On the final rule, I'm going to switch it up for you since I've gotten to know you. And I don't like to do the race thing because I think poor is poor, rich is rich, and everyone has problems. But there are young Puerto Ricans out there in the Philadelphia community and Latinos that are going to see this. Either their father owns a business or their mother owns a business, their aunt or uncle, and they're going to wind up seeing this one day. What would you say to that 12, 13, 15, 6-year-old kid that's Latino, Puerto Rican, black, whatever, white, poor, that is scared, and then it can resonate with you because you grew up poor, you've been in fights, now you're running for the 6th largest city's DA, and there's a possibility you're going to win, there's a possibility you're not, but you're stepping up and you did 35 years. What would you say to that person that feels that they can't get out, they can't change their life, and they're scared? What would you say to that little boy or girl?
I would say is you got to believe in yourself. You have to dream and dream big, and get used to the fact that life is unfair. It's tough. But it's, I don't know if Rocky said it, but it's not how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and get up. You're going to get hit hard, but this is a marathon, which is you're going to be sidestepped, but you're going to keep going forward. Believe in yourself because you're special. Those guys who speak another language, whether you're Spanish, Asian, or whatever, be proud that you're in 2 worlds. You speak 2 languages, and some people only speak 1. You're smarter than they are. You may speak English with an accent, but you speak 2 languages. So you got to believe in yourself, work hard, and you have to associate yourself with friends who have the same dreams as you. You cannot be weak in terms of using drugs and using alcohol to numb yourself. Eat the pain. Make you stronger, saying, okay, I got knocked down, but I'm going to show you what I can do, because I'm here talking to you now, and I should never be talking to you right now. You can do it because I believe in you. You just have to be strong enough to say, I am somebody, I am special, I am worth it, and I'm going to fight, okay? And if you do that, you're going to win that race, and you're going to be 40, 50, 60 years ago, damn, Carlos was right. Look at what I'm doing. Because when I've gone to Europe on vacation, I go, damn, who would have thought I could do this? Okay?
No doubt.
But I dream big, and you may not get all your dreams, but you got to dream and say, I got to do it, and you got to be passionate about it, and you can't let the streets eat you. I mean, my mother, and I don't drink or ever use drugs. My mother said that is something, a poison put on you to derail you. So do it. It's like asking a girl to dance. You know, some guys take a shot of liquor. I did it in cold blood. That way, when they said no, I go, oh my God, I'm humiliated. But you got to toughen up. It's really, you got to be tough. And I'm saying that to females also, because the man I am is because of my mother. My mother taught me to be strong, to get over it, be ambitious, be petty, vindictive. All the equipment I need to survive in life is that lady. So when I talk to females, and I have a daughter, and all my sisters are alpha females, and my mother is this, you ladies also understand that you're special. You don't survive on living on a man's coattails. You can do it all on your own also, because life is sometimes unfair, but life is beautiful. I mean, there's so much wonderful things, and you enjoy the better things when you have suffered, when you've gone hungry, when you've been poor, when you don't know how you're going to pay the rent. That builds character, and that's why I say I've never had a bad day, because I have suffered. So to those kids, I'm saying is this: I believe in you. You're my future, and I'm so proud of you when you make it.
Well, I love the line, eat the pain. I love that. Eat the pain. That should be your slogan. Eat the pain. I love it. That's so, those words resonate so much. Carlos, thank you so much for being on the Den. I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck. You seem like a very great guy. You seem like you are sincere, more than qualified. You know, I'm not going to pick who wins this race out of you or Larry, but I respect you both very much. And I think Philadelphia'd be blessed to have you. And you're sincere, and that's all I can say. You're sincere. I can see it, and I love the fact that you believe in reform and second chances. We need more of that around here. We just really do. The world needs more of that type of thinking.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate the talk, and I'd love to talk to you some other time. You know, maybe after I win, we'll come in and we say how I did this race.
Absolutely.
You know?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to follow me at Lance Bachman on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Facebook at Lance Bachman Digital. And every Thursday we drop a new podcast. Don't forget to listen to it. We're giving out great content. And remember this is the time to build your business right now. Let's effing go, everybody.